So, another week.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Good. So what have you chosen for this week?
So for this week we are going for a French menu, and I wanted to showcase a few French varieties grown in Australia.
Well, we're going to support the French this week, don't
That's
we?
it, absolutely. So quite a few new wines are coming up, and some more classic and some more up and coming. And Anwar, what do you think about the lineup this week?
Fantastic range, and also the dishes are really unique. I mean, I'm sure that you are more familiar with those dishes, but they're all really colorful and unique, as well as the wines. No,
Marie's been working with the chefs to come up with the menu for this week, which is great. And you've chosen some French varieties, eh? Here in Australia.
So, and especially wanted to showcase Victorian wine as well. Mm-hmm. So for the first snacks, which is basically asparagus, egg mimosa with vinaigrette, which is very classic. I used to eat that when I was young all my life, and I loved it, and it reminds me of good time. So wanted to bring you a very good wine, one of my favorite alternative varietal called Pinot Blanc. It's grown by Granite Hills Winery based on the Macedon Ranges. So quite high altitude. You got a beautiful warm days and cool nights, which allows the grapes to keep the freshness. In terms of the style here, you expect the sort of very lively, vibrant acidity and a green aspect. So very fresh, perfect with the asparagus as well as the egg. Really enjoy this wine. The Granite Hill Winery is one of the smallest winery in the region, and also one of the most coveted. They were one of the earliest pioneer doing that grape variety in Australia. So very lucky and very happy to have it here for you.
Oh, Knight family, a great family.
Yeah. You know them?
Yes, and they've done a great job over many years. So great to see them in the lineup.
Nice.
Can't get enough of Macedon Ranges wine. It's amazing area, really.
Well, Pinot Blanc's an interesting variety, isn't it? Because you think about it being a very neutral type of variety, and it's very textural, and it works really well with food. I think it is really a very food-friendly variety.
It is.
You know, you see it up in Alsace, obviously, with those great cut-through on some of those creamy dishes and things.
Imagine those dishes in Alsace where you have massive big sausage and sauerkraut and it's big, rich, opulent, and suddenly you drink that Pinot Blanc, you're like, oh, what's going on? I can eat another.
Really refreshing. With the next course, we have one of our favorite Chardonnays here in the restaurant. This is the Wallis 2017 Chardonnay from Untitled Chapter. The vineyard is actually not far away from the restaurant.
It's only 2 kilometers down here, so very close.
Absolutely. I mean, and we are sort of about 140 meters above sea level.
Yeah, about 140 to 160 meters for the Wallis vineyard. And it's a beautiful Chardonnay. It's got that lovely white flower, hasn't it, on the nose. It's got that lovely cut through and line of acidity. And the 17 vintage is a classic vintage, a great vintage.
Your favorite, Martin?
It's one of my recent favorites, that's for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Really complex on the palate as well. Yeah. It's very lifted on the nose, but then once it hits the palate, you see that intensity of fruit, and that's what really one of the signature of the vineyard, is it?
It is, and you think about Chardonnay and where we are today. With Chardonnay, it's grown in so many regions and so many different styles. But the thing that really brought me to Victoria and brought me to the Mornington was the Chardonnay. Chardonnay as much as anything. I mean, Pinot obviously, but it's just that beautiful, elegant style and that lovely acidity.
And how do you see the Mornington Chardonnay has evolved with time since you arrived on the peninsula?
Just so much better. I think that I think the style of Chardonnay when I arrived was certainly a little bit bigger, a little bit riper. The market was demanding that sort of bigger, oakier style of wines that, of course, aren't really very much enjoyed these days. But I think we've seen across all of Australia how everyone's brought that back and is picking at more optimal ripeness with a better balance, great acid, and I think the Chardonnays from Mornington are just outstanding at the moment. They really are, and of course across Victoria. In Yarra and Macedon as well, and Geelong. So
it's
great. Talking about Pinot Noir,
So
Yeah.
for the next course, we have, it's not a course actually, it's actually a little macaroon with the duck liver inside. So it's got a real crunchiness and real savoriness. We wanted to go for a classic grape variety grown in Australia, in France, and all over the world. This is Pinot Noir, all our favorite. That's all we all here as well. We are in Bannockburn, so in Geelong, on the other side of where we are sitting now, with one of the most iconic producers in Australia, Bannockburn. They were one of the first ones to create what we call close planted vineyard in Australia. And this is a vineyard that they call it de la terre because it's sitting on limestone and volcanic soil, which is quite rare in Victoria. And for those who know Burgundy very much, so we tend to associate limestone with very pure, very elegant style of Pinot with lovely acidity, which is the case here. You'll find on the glass when you're going to drink it, there is more than just fruit. There's a lot of savoriness to it, a lot of that black olive and herbal, which is very classic from the style of Bannockburn. And I mean, we have to, I mean, like the Pinot Blanc, where we celebrating the alternative, here we're really celebrating the iconic, isn't it?
Well, it's great to, you know, we've got all the 10 Minutes by Tractor wines available, of course, but it's nice to, you know, have some of these wines from the restaurant cellar and to look at, you know, these different styles of Pinot that you see across Victoria, you know, in Geelong and Yarra, Macedon, and here obviously in Mornington Peninsula. And, you know, one of the things that are really interesting about this wine, and I think that's made it an iconic wine, is their experimentation with whole bunch ferments and what Gary Farr did in the early years. And it shows you what the possibilities are with a combination of, you know, great terroir, but also great winemaking.
And you don't see that at the back of the label, but it says the 2015 season provided a high quality crop of Pinot Noir. So perfect for you at home.
100%. And the whole bunch, you know, like you see more and more styles with the whole bunch. In this case, it's 100% whole bunch. So
100%,
it's really
which is
lifted and really gives that, you know, aromatics up from the glass. And
it's gutsy, but they pull it off. Okay, that's great.
The next, we're moving on. We've got a beautiful wine that we really love here in the restaurant. It's a Marsanne from Place of Changing Winds. It's coming from Hidcote. It's a 2019. And it's actually the first time they made a Marsanne. And there is not a big quantity of that wine. Really high acidity and beautiful texture. The wine is, for me, it's really showing well now, but it's also has ability to age. The way I see it, you know, it's really going to shine in the future. What do you think, Xavier? Do you personally like that wine?
I love this one, and it's, again, we talk about Chardonnay all the time. This is a good alternative to Chardonnay, one. And second, as we always talk about wine, it's always a story of people. Behind you have someone called Robert Walters, which is very well known in the industry. He's importing a lot of wines from France and overseas, and I really like the company, really like the people, and seeing them doing, like, at least creating a vineyard from nothing with the help of all the industry. It's beautiful. It means that everyone is working together. And not only that, this wine is kind of related to us, isn't it, Martin?
Well, yes, in a way. I mean, Rob's done a wonderful job with his vineyard and his close planted vineyards and some of the experimentation with high density vineyards. And really, it's with him and Tim Brown, who obviously spent a lot of time in France and really took the big leap to really experiment by planting larger vineyards and with high density. And him, and together with Michael Dillon and ourselves, we've sort of been on a journey together, sharing equipment, ideas and equipment, and how to overcome some of the challenges. And, you know, he's really doing a wonderful job. Not only is he a good importer of good wines, he's a good wine writer as well. Some wonderful books on champagne.
Yes.
And he's making some great wine.
And I mean, this is, I'm from Marseille, I'm from the south of France, and we have a very classic dish which we have this week. It's called bouillabaisse, which is basically a fish stew. And great. I mean, there's so many wines you can pour with the dish, but I think the Marsanne will really, really highlight that sort of sea flavor of the dishes.
And this is about as close to home as you get, right?
That's it.
This is about as close to home. I mean, Marsanne and Roussanne, two fascinating varieties, and some wonderful old vines around Australia. Some of the earliest imports into Australia were with Marsanne, and it's got that lovely sort of viscosity and sort of body. Great match with that dish, eh?
The fish stew
and
bouillabaisse.
Yeah, great.
Because you know what, you do have on the wine a little bit of that sort of tangerine, blood orange character, and think about that sauce that comes with the bouillabaisse, la rouille, which is aioli with all these beautiful spices, and it kind of like makes a lot of sense together.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to try and eat.
Fantastic. What's the last one?
So we are going up to Northeast Victoria. We have a beautiful variety called Petit Mensing, which originally coming from the south of France, from the Jurançon area on the border with Spain, the Pyrenees.
Yeah, right.
Over there, the wine is made by Fighting Gully Road. The winemaker and the viticulturist is Mark Walpole. Mark Walpole,
fantastic guy,
absolutely,
incredible experience and knowledge.
Absolutely, it's really endless, and he was bringing a lot of varieties into Australia, isolate them, and really put them into the ground. 2 years ago, Mark Walpole won the Viticulturist of the Year in Australia, which is really fantastic.
Well deserved.
The wines are made beautifully. They're fresh, they're elegant. You get those exotic aromas on the nose, all the tropical notes, and it's sweet on the palate, but it's not fatiguing the palate. It's really easy and refreshing, especially when we have the dish like the Paris-Brest, with the hazelnut and the cream.
This is, I think, one of the highlights of this week's menu is the wonderful dessert.
Stop it!
Well, Marie gave us a little bit of insight into the story of how that dish was developed in her little video, and so I think it should go pretty well.
It's kind of like you can go on top of the hazelnuts, which will go in other wine pairing. Here we really wanted to showcase the caramelization of the nuts and the pastry rather than being too deep. Wanted something to refresh you. And Petit Mensing, it's so underrated in Australia, let alone in France as well. We don't see enough. Yet the wines they produce, they're quite delicious, and everything that you expect from sweet wine, moreish, but yet they're very fresh, which is perfect for food. So Fighting Gully is amazing. We love the producer, love the winery, and hopefully you'll do too as well. Yeah. Thank you very much for joining us this week. Martin, Noah, myself, and all the team at 10 Minutes by Tractor would like to thank you for your support again, and we'll see you another time.
Cheers.
Cheers.